Hi, my name is Paul Sargent. Welcome once again to AP Euro Bit by Bit, where I'm trying to break down modern European history into small bite-sized pieces so you can better understand it. Now, in our last episode, we took a look at the new monarchies of the 15th and 16th centuries. And if you recall, I went through the four basic ways that these monarchies went about consolidating power in their countries. Number one, they took power away from the nobles. Number two, they took power away from the clergy. Number three, they created extensive bureaucracies that would allow them to govern the country. And then number four, they found new sources of income. Now, we're going to do a test case here, and there are lots to choose from, but for personal interest, I'm going to choose Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. Let's take a look at them and see whether they really characterize as new monarchs. Okay, so by 1450, the Iberian Peninsula, this is this little area of Europe that sticks out towards North Africa. This was a divided place. The peninsula was a rich mixture of cultures and heritage, having been occupied by Muslim forces for a real long time. So there's no national identity here among the people living there, and there's absolutely no centralized state whatsoever. Okay, so all of this began to change in 1469 when you have a really big marriage happen. It's between Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. And they're going to bring together the two largest areas of the Iberian Peninsula into one semi-country. Don't think of this as a unification of Spain, right? This is a loose confederation bound together by the bonds of marriage and later family. But Spain won't officially become a unified country until about 1700. All right, so despite the fact that Ferdinand and Isabella didn't have a real unified state, they fought to bring major changes to the realm. This qualifies them, I think, to join the ranks of the new monarchs that we were talking about last time. Let's take a look at some of the things that they did. First of all, they revived an old tradition called the Hermanon Days. Now, these are groups of people that acted as sort of unofficial police inside of towns and courts inside of towns, and really used violence to suppress violence, which is kind of a weird concept. Look, honestly, if you're using violence to suppress violence, then something is wrong, although sometimes it's effective. Secondly, they restructured their royal council. They took all of the nobility out of the entire council. They took full control of all governmental authority, that's executive power, legislative power, and judicial power, and they hired a group of middle-class employees to supervise all these local authorities. They're bringing in bureaucrats, people, and taking away the power of the nobility. What's more, they make a deal with the Catholic Church. They make Catholicism the national religion of Spain, and in return for that, the Pope gives them the ability to name all of the officials in the church and to start something which is going to become known as the Spanish Inquisition. Okay, so Ferdinand and Isabella really felt, as did many rulers at the time, that a divided country along the lines of religion was a problem because it created divided loyalties. Were you loyal to your country? Were you loyal to your religion? I don't know. If you eliminate one, maybe your country is stronger. And they had three major religions in Spain: Catholicism, Judaism, and Islam. So it was the Jewish population in Spain that really became a problem for Ferdinand and Isabella. They had a very large and wealthy Jewish population, a lot of whom had fled from France and England as those countries decided to basically kick them out. And the problem with these different faiths started to arise. Plus, add to that fact that there's a long history of anti-Semitism in Europe, and it had gotten especially worse since the days of the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, the Black Death, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. People look for scapegoats, and the Jews were the scapegoats. And so they ordered that Jews convert to Catholicism or leave. Those that converted were referred to as conversos. And they practiced Catholicism, but there was real question about whether they had actually converted or not. So if you tell people they have to convert or leave their ancestral homelands or the lands that they've settled in and become prosperous in, maybe they're not going to completely convert, but they'll say they will. Just a rule of life. So in order to try and figure out whether these people had actually converted or not, Ferdinand and Isabella got the authority to institute the Spanish Inquisition, which was run by a guy named Torquemada. Now, it was established in 1480, and it used torture, and well, more torture in order to try and get confessions that these people had not really converted. So how did Ferdinand and Isabella ultimately deal with this conversos problem? They kicked out the Jews. About 150,000 to 200,000 Jews fled Spain when this order was given. Now, it's one thing to take power in a country, it's another to maintain power in a country and to maintain power in Europe from other countries which are starting to consolidate. Ferdinand and Isabella start to marry off their family and create familial relations with all of the big European powers. And that's how they solidified their rule. Oh yeah, and money. How about the money situation? Well, when you kick out 150,000 to 200,000 Jews, you're going to have some money from them. When you take over the Catholic Church, you're going to have some money coming in from their lands. And all of that money is going to allow you to do things that you've never been able to do before, including beating all of the Muslims in a war and kicking them off the peninsula too, and then turning around in the same year, 1492, and giving money to Columbus to go off and try and find a new way to the Spice Islands. Oh my gosh, these guys are doing pretty well, right? So how do they rate? Pretty well. They successfully reduced the power of the nobles. They created a Catholic Church that was under state control. They created a bureaucracy to govern it. And they found new sources of money, all of which are the characteristics of these new monarchs. But the largest source of wealth would come from the voyages of Christopher Columbus. In 1492, he sailed off under the direction of Ferdinand and Isabella and eventually found the New World, the Western Hemisphere, North and South America. And when the Spanish begin to colonize it, money starts flowing in. But more on that later. So there you have it. Ferdinand and Isabella, pretty good on the new monarch scale right there. So that's it for this episode of AP Euro Bit by Bit. Hope you learned something. Hope you had a good time. If so, please subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever I post new videos. And keep checking back on this page to look for more and more and more and more. Till then, my name's Paul Sargent. Have a great day.